The investigations ensue right now. One of the guys leading the charge is Mike Kelly, the Pennsylvania Republican chairman of the bipartisan task force investigating this assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Congressman, always good to have you. You know, the one thing that comes through loud and clear, Congressman, and you were one of the first to cite it, is the screw up in communicating. And it goes back to the first identification of Thomas Matthew Crooks, looking very suspicious and acting very suspiciously more than an hour before the event. Not only was it not relayed what people were seeing at the event to local law enforcement and then to the Secret Service, but right down to the very moment the shots were being fired. How does that happen?
You know what, Neil, it's a really good question, and that's why we have this task force that is set up. And I think that the beginning of all this is there's going to be 13 members, 7 Republicans, 6 Democrats, but I think we all identify it as Americans that are really interested, and we are going to be focused on getting the answers from the American people. One thing I will say is this, from the very onset, it's about preparation. Right? It's always going to be about preparation for whatever event that you're going to go to or whatever you're going to put together. It just seemed to me that from the very concept of coming to Butler, Pennsylvania, there was something that was missing, and that was the preparation for the event taking place on July 13th.
So, Congressman, when there was word that the Iranians were going to put out a hit or planning an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and there was that beefing up of Secret Service protection, was it in place by the Butler, Pennsylvania event? Because presumably it was only days prior.
But you know what? I can't answer that, but that's the reason we have the task force, and that's what we're going to be looking for. We need to get the right answers. You know, the American people really have the right to know, and we have the responsibility to find out for them. And getting in there quickly is not as important as getting there the right way. And I think that's what we're going to concentrate on. Every member of this task force is dedicated on one thing and one thing only. How did this happen? What did we know that we should have been more alert on? What didn't we prepare for that we should have been prepared for? And at the end of the day, we're going to deliver a report that the American people can look at and say, okay, this is not about you heard this from somebody. This is the facts on what happened from the very day this was planned until 6/11 on July 13th.
You know, you're an expert at all of this, Congressman, but the one thing I see is that they say that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And a lot of the communication issues that came up here where police couldn't communicate with the Secret Service, and the Secret Service respond to, you know, average folks, you know, at the venue talking about a gunman, goes back to what we saw after 9/11 and what we saw January 6th on Capitol Hill, where various agencies were not able to or did not communicate with one another. It could be the fact that they weren't on the same frequency on their walkie-talkies, or some were texting and others were phoning. I don't know. But again and again, common theme. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered and have to be answered with honesty and not trying to say, well, it was somebody else's fault or somebody should have done this and they didn't do it. What I think more than anything else, Neil, where was the preparation for this event? Where was the touch gloves moment where everybody involved in the safety and security this day, that they were all on the same page with the same frequencies, with the same goal, and that is, at the end of the day, a safe event that people could go to, could listen to the former President of the United States and our candidate now for the presidency and say, you know what, I walked out of there, I felt safe the whole time I was there. What has ensued since that time is confusion, and we're not sure what happened. We don't know why it happened. And the question I think the task force has, how could you not have been prepared for this?
Yeah, very quickly, Donald Trump wants to resume outdoor rallies. Can't blame him. He can pack a crowd, that's for sure. But all the rallies and campaign events we've seen on both sides have been indoors. What you now know and what you're trying to get to, do you feel safe recommending a candidate, any candidate, campaign at an outdoor event?
I think I would feel safe if I knew there's a program in place that's followed every single time there's an event that takes place, as opposed to, well, we should have done this and we should have done that. And the answer is that look at the game films and see where you were right and find out where you were wrong, and then put together a game plan that it ensures the safety and security, not only of the former President of the United States, but anybody else that's on a stage like that, and people who are in the crowd. We lost Corey Compatoria that day, and a couple other people were wounded. So that's not acceptable at any rate, any place, anywhere in the United States of America.
Chairman, thank you very much. We look forward to your continued investigation.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.